We appear to be living a cyclical existence. We started the day in a manufacturing facility where we faced the threat of certain death, and we ended the day in a biotechnological facility where we faced the threat of certain death. True, one threat was from malevolent nanobots, while the other threat was from psychotic cybernetic organisms who probably haven't eaten in days. Living a life like this, no wonder people wish to find some kind of escape. Greetings, and welcome back to Checkpoint Gaming, Gaslands Legacy. In this episode, we'll be going over chapters 8 and 9. With Chapter 8, the Kellosaurus Factory, the players are to play the Truckosaurus scenario found in the core rulebook, with the addition of Kellosaurus Lives, Kellosaurus Bleeds, Game End and Victory Conditions, Access Codes, and the Scent of Blood scenario rules. At the beginning of the chapter, read the following section aloud. It is worth noting that this section is not the typical narrative text found in earlier chapters. It is more in-game instructions than anything else. And at the end of the chapter, read through the post-game section.
If one of the players noted that they possess the command codes, then the player will have to unlock a clue using the code countdown, one word, followed by reading it aloud. But if no player has noted that they possess the command codes, then the player who has the highest total corrosion will have to unlock a clue by using the code roadblock, one word, and reading it aloud. And if there is a tie for highest total corrosion level, a roll-off is to occur.
With the Kellosaurus Lives scenario rule, ignore the Truckosaurus Lives scenario rule. At the start of the chapter, the player that is in pole position will receive the Kellosaurus token. If the player has any spare dinosaur toys, it can be used as the Kellosaurus token. At the end of each gear phase, the player that possesses the Kellosaurus token will activate Truckosaurus, followed by passing the Kellosaurus token clockwise. Truckosaurus will also activate exactly once during each gear phase, even if none of the other vehicles have activated during that given gear phase. Upon activation, Truckosaurus will possess the gear level equal to that of the current gear phase. When the controlling player activates Truckosaurus, they will have to select a template, their given template collection, to use with Truckosaurus. This includes any damage from newly created templates. Whenever Truckosaurus is involved in a collision that occurs outside of its activation, they will always declare a smash attack reaction. And whenever Truckosaurus is the target of an attack or is involved in a collision that occurs outside of its activation, then counts as being in Gear 3. Truckosaurus is also unable to leave the play area, so if Truckosaurus' movement or final position causes it to overlap the edge of the play area, the movement is interrupted at that given point. Also, do not resolve a collision with the play area edge. With the Kellosaurus Bleeds scenario rule, ignore the Truckosaurus Feeds special rule found in the core rulebook. Whenever a player inflicts damage upon Truckosaurus, they will gain 1 victory point for every point of damage that they cause. With the endgame and victory conditions scenario rule, ignore the victory conditions for the given scenario. The first team that is able to score 25 victory points is deemed the winner and the chapter will end. But if this is unable to be achieved, then chapter will end when 1. There's only one player left that possesses a vehicle or vehicles in play, or 2. 3 rounds have elapsed. With the second option, the player or players that possess the most victory points is deemed the winner. With the access code scenario rule, if a player made note that they discovered the KSR access code when Truckosaurus is activated, the player is allowed to spend 1 audience vote in order to jam Truckosaurus for the rest of its activation. But with that said, the player can only do this once during the chapter. When jammed, Truckosaurus cannot target either vehicle found upon said player's team with an attack. It will also have to declare an evade reaction when it collides with a vehicle found on this player's team during this given activation. With the Scent of Blood scenario rule, during setup and before deployment, each player that has noted that they possess dinosaur blood upon their windshield will have to select one of the other players and give them 2 bonus audience votes at the start of the chapter. With the Kellosaurus Factory post-game, it consists of the following components. First, each vehicle will gain 2 mutations. Second, the player who has the lowest total corrosion will roll 2 template improvements, with all players gaining the rolled template improvements. And if there is a tie, the lowest total corrosion, a roll-off is to occur. Third, each player will have to check their team's hull boxes. If less than half the team's total hull boxes have been corroded, then the player will have to unlock a clue using the code Symbiosis. But if at least half the team's total hull boxes have been corroded, then the player will have to unlock a clue using the code DireBot, one word. And fourth, each player is to calculate their new team rating. Once this chapter has been completed, proceed to Chapter 9. With Chapter 9, Control-Alt-Delete, the players are to play the Revolution Will Be Televised scenario found in the core rulebook, but with the addition of Nanobot Override Beacons, part of the Nanobot Vortex, Game End, and Command Code scenario rules. At the beginning of this chapter, read the following section aloud, and at the end of this chapter, read through the post-game section.
Seated in the jumble of wires and slime in the saddle of a prehistoric biomech, you feel a surge of hope. Here is where you take a stand. You'll either halt this madness or be overwhelmed by this gray nanoplague. Get to the radio towers. Broadcast the shutdown override signal. Pray it works. With the Nanobot Override Beacon scenario rule, whenever a player is required to make note of a new terrain piece, that player cannot note a piece of terrain that is found within double range of any other given vehicles. With the heart of the Nanobot Vortex scenario rule, end of each game round, the player that possesses the most victory points will roll 1 template improvement, with all players gaining the roll template improvement. And if there is a tie for most victory points, a roll-off is to occur. And at the start of each game round, all vehicles that wreck get to respawn for free, even if the controlling player has other vehicles found in play.
With the game and scenario rule, ignore the endgame rules of the given scenario. The chapter will only come to an end when one player has gained 3 victory points, at which point the chapter will immediately come to an end. With the command code scenario rule, if one player possesses the command codes, then all of the other players that don't possess the command codes will have to obtain 4 victory points in order to win the chapter instead of 3. With the Control-Alt-Delete post-game, it consists of the following components. First, if a team that controls a Killosaurus wins the game, then the shutdown codes have been broadcast and the game proceeds to Conclusion A, Dawn of the Killosaurus. And second, if a team containing a Nanobot Behemoth wins the game, then the shutdown codes weren't broadcast and the game proceeds to Conclusion B, Nano Apocalypse. If Conclusion A was obtained, then read the following section aloud.
As you push the transmit button, the world freezes in place. The swirling, chaotic nano soup suddenly calcifies into a demented tableau of otherworldly sculptures. Familiar, but indescribable. The rampage of rogue nanobots from the Rutherford facility seems to have been halted. This part of the world will just have to die of some other horror instead. From your vantage point atop your Killsaurus, you can't help feeling something is only beginning. In the command of this engine of destruction, a person might do something great or something terrible. You feel as if you could take Mars on single-handedly or build a terrible wasteland empire of your own. Wide shot of a mechanized dinosaur silhouetted by the setting sun.
With that, the campaign comes to an end, and the player that possesses the lowest total number of corroded hull boxes on the team from both vehicles is deemed the winner of this campaign. But if there's a tie, then the tie player who possesses the highest number of victories is deemed the winner of the campaign. If Conclusion B was obtained, then read the following section aloud.
Transmission aborted. Shutdown threat contained. Area PHX-0345 erasure proceeding. Expected sterilization in T-minus 23 hours. Report compiling. Compressing. Uploading. Complete. Receipt acknowledged. Stand by for new directive. Downloading. Receipt acknowledged. New directive received. Updating designation Counter-Terrorist Strike Unit KSR 039001. Updating operating protocol. Search and destroy. Acquiring target coordinates. Execute.
With that, the campaign comes to an end, and the player that possesses the highest total number of corroded hull boxes found on the team for both vehicles is deemed the winner of the campaign. But if there's a tie, then the tie player who possesses the highest number of victories is deemed the winner of the campaign. And with that said, this will bookend the main series pertaining to how to go about playing the game Gaslands Legacy. We hope that you found this to be helpful and allowed you to better understand how to go about playing the game. As time progresses and any official updates or future releases get put out for the community, we will return to these episodes and update them accordingly to better reflect the changes that have been made to the game. With the nature of Checkpoint Gaming, we want to present the most up-to-date version of the game as possible to those who wish to play. And if you want to implement your own rules for your given group of players, feel free to do so. Your own interpretation of the rules may lead your group down a different gameplay path, and that is fine. As long as you're having fun playing the game, we say go for it. So with that said, we hope that you enjoyed our series pertaining to how to go about playing Gaslands Legacy. If you liked this episode, feel free to give it a like, and if you want to stay up to date on any future episodes we upload, go ahead and subscribe. You can also support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/checkpointgaming. We look forward to seeing you in the next game series, and as always, happy gaming.